Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we wanted to do something a little different, a bit more in depth. We're going to have a relaxed chat, but this conversation is designed to be a super practical lesson. How have you been, Melody? You seem like you've had a very eventful few weeks.
I really have. It's been a whirlwind of activity, but all good things. It's great to finally sit down and talk about it all.
I thought so, and that's our topic for today. As Melody tells us about her adventures, we want all of you listening to pay close attention to the language she uses, specifically how she talks about things that are finished and done.
That's right. We're talking about the simple past tense. This is a perfect chance to hear it used naturally in a long form story, not just in short example sentences. So consider this a listening exercise.
Exactly. So I'm just going to ask you what you've been up to, and we'll see where the conversation goes. Let's start with the most recent. Tell me in detail, what did you do yesterday?
Okay, yesterday. Well, I woke up quite early, around 6:30, because I knew I had a lot to do. I made a big pot of coffee, sat at my desk, and I spent the first hour planning my day. Then I worked on editing our last video.
Right, the one about phrasal verbs. That one seemed complex. How did the editing go?
It was a challenge. I edited the main footage for about 2 hours. Then I searched for the right background music. I chose a track that felt upbeat, but not distracting. I also added all the text graphics, which took a long time. I finished around 1 in the afternoon and felt pretty drained.
I can imagine. So what did you do after that?
Well, I needed a break, so I went for a long walk in Greenwood Park. The autumn colors were amazing. I walked along the path by the lake and I saw a family of ducks. I even found a quiet bench and sat there for 20 minutes, just listening to the wind and the trees. It really cleared my head.
That sounds so peaceful. And what about the evening?
In the evening, I decided to have a movie night. I cooked a simple dinner and then I watched that new sci-fi film, Cosmic Drift. It told the story of an astronaut who got lost in space. The special effects were incredible, and I thought the plot was really clever. I drank some tea, ate some popcorn, and just relaxed on the sofa. I got so into the movie, I completely forgot about work.
That's the best kind of evening. Okay, that was a great detailed account. Now, let's go back a little further. Tell me about last week. You mentioned your sister visited.
Yes, she came on Wednesday and stayed until Saturday. We decided to take a day trip on Thursday. We drove about 2 hours north to a little coastal town called Port Blossom. It was so charming.
Port Blossom? I don't think I've heard of it. What was it like?
It was beautiful. Old cobblestone streets, colorful little houses, and fishing boats bobbing in the harbor. First, we explored the town. We walked up to an old lighthouse that stood on the cliff. From there, we saw the entire coastline. Then we went down to the beach. The water was icy cold, but we ran in for a minute anyway. We tried to build a sandcastle, but the waves came and washed it away. We just laughed.
That sounds like a movie scene. Did you get anything to eat there?
Oh, absolutely. We found a restaurant called the Salty Anchor right by the water. We sat outside on the patio. I ordered grilled sea bass, and my sister chose the fish and chips. The waiter brought us some warm bread while we waited. We ate slowly, talked for hours, and watched the sunset over the ocean. It was perfect.
Wow. What about Friday? Did you do anything else exciting?
We did some shopping. We went into a few small boutiques downtown. My sister bought a beautiful hand-painted scarf as a souvenir. Then we discovered a tiny hidden bookstore called The Page Turner. I was so excited. We spent at least an hour in there. I found a vintage copy of one of my favorite novels and bought it immediately. Later that evening, we just ordered pizza and stayed in. She left early the next morning.
What a fantastic trip. So many memories made in just a few days. Okay, one more question, and this is the big one. Let's go back to last month. Tell me about a significant experience you had.
Last month was when I started my pottery class. I signed up for a 4-week course at a local art studio. I always wanted to learn, so I finally took the plunge.
Pottery, that's so cool, but it seems really hard. How was your first day?
Oh, the first day was a total disaster. The instructor showed us the basics of how to center the clay on the wheel. It looked so easy when she did it, but when I tried, the clay flew right off the wheel and stuck to my shirt. I tried again, and it just collapsed into a sad, wobbly pancake. The instructor was very kind and laughed with me. I left that first day covered in clay and with nothing to show for it.
That's hilarious. So you didn't give up?
No, I was determined. The second week, I finally got the clay to stay on the wheel. I practiced for 3 hours straight. I managed to make something that resembled a very, very thick cup. It was a start. The third week, I tried to make a plate, but it broke when I lifted it off the wheel. I felt frustrated, but I kept going.
It sounds like a real test of patience.
It really was. Then, on the final week of the class, something clicked. I took a deep breath, centered the clay, and slowly pulled up the walls. And I made a bowl. It was small and a little uneven, but it was a real bowl. I was so proud. After it dried, I painted it with a beautiful speckled blue glaze. I picked it up from the kiln last week, and it looks amazing.
Melody, what a journey from flying clay to a finished bowl. That's a fantastic story of perseverance. It's actually inspired me to share something I attempted recently as well, though it was a bit more delicious.
Oh, really? More delicious than a beautiful handcrafted bowl? Now I'm intrigued. Please tell me you tried some ambitious cooking project.
You guessed it. A couple of weekends ago, I decided to finally try and bake a real sourdough loaf from scratch. I even cultivated my own starter for a week leading up to it.
No way! Avery, that's a huge undertaking. I've heard sourdough starters are like taking care of a small pet. You have to feed it every day, right?
It's completely true. I fed my little starter, which I named Clint Yeastwood, every single day. The whole bread-making process spanned 2 full days. On Saturday, I mixed the flour, water, salt, and starter. Then came the complicated part. I had to stretch and fold the dough every 30 minutes for 4 hours.
Wow, that is some serious dedication to bread. I would have given up and ordered a pizza, which is ironically what I did on Friday. So what happened on Sunday?
Sunday was baking day. I shaped the loaf in the morning and let it have its final rest in the fridge. The most nerve-wracking part was scoring the top with a blade before I put it in the oven. I tried for a cool design, but it ended up looking a bit jagged. Then I baked it in a super hot Dutch oven.
The grand finale? I'm on the edge of my seat. How did it come out? Did you get a good crumb?
I was shocked, but it actually worked. The crust was deep golden brown and so crispy. When I sliced into it, the inside had nice, airy holes, a decent crumb. It wasn't perfect, it was a bit lopsided, but the flavor was incredible. I ate 3 warm slices with melted butter. I felt like a champion.
That's fantastic, a champion baker. And I think our listeners can see what we did there. We just spent all this time telling stories about trips, pottery, and baking, and the simple past tense was the star of the show.
Exactly. We weren't thinking about grammar rules. We were just communicating. And in doing so, we used tons of regular past tense verbs like planned, walked, painted, and baked, and a whole bunch of irregular ones like went, saw, ate, made, and felt.
The point is, the best way to master a tense is to use it to talk about real things. We hope hearing our stories gave you a better feel for how the simple past is used in natural, everyday conversation. If you want more lessons like this, from grammar and vocabulary to exam tips, make sure you're subscribed to our channel, English and IELTS Mastery Hub.
That's right. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss a video.
We'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.